Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Big Ball Vlogs, and I do reviews, comparison shopping, and everyday vlogging. So if you're interested in stuff like that, please consider clicking the subscribe button and maybe hitting the notification button to be notified when I post a new video. Like this video, this is going to be about the Crane M2 gimbal that was recently released. This has probably been out for 2-3 weeks. I saw it go on sale on Amazon with a release date right as I was going on vacation, and I didn't want to order it and have it sitting at the front door, maybe not be there when I got back from vacation. Got back from vacation, I was able to pick it up Amazon Prime. It showed up in 2 days. Last weekend, I was able to get it out of the box and go through all the settings and features to figure out how it works. So this isn't a first time unboxing. This is just an unboxing to show you what accessories it came with. Since it's been sitting in the box since I opened it for the first time. So here's the box, normal standard box that Zhiyun has sent out the last couple of gimbals I got from them. Gives you a product description on the side. Very nice box, probably good for storage if you want to store this away after you've taken it out of the box. Inside the box you get basically a quick start guide. While there's multiple pages to this, only like the first two are in English and then the rest are in different languages. You also get a card that tells you where to go if you need some warranty services done. I've never had to use Zhiyun's warranty services, so I'm not sure how great they are. If anybody has, please leave a comment below. Tell me how good they are or how bad they are. And then you get the Zhiyun Crane M2 in a nice black foam sturdy box. This box is similar to the box that I got with the Zhiyun Smooth 4. It's nice, it's sturdy. It's got a nice little plastic hinge here. Everything is molded so that everything fits away nice and snug. So if you use this as a travel box, it should be secure. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be some vendor out there that's going to offer some kind of aftermarket box to hold all of your accessories. And I'm hoping that they'll probably release different accessories that you can use with this gimbal with different cameras. But inside the box, this is what you get. You get the Crane M2 gimbal. You also get, if I can get this out of here without struggling, a very nice black anodized heavy cell phone clamp for using the gimbal with a cell phone. You get a USB-C charging cable. Looks decent. I'm pretty sure it's going to allow you to do not only charging but data transfer. That's key when you're going out and buying those cheap charging cables. Some of them are not made for data transfer. So if you have one of these lying around that you got maybe free or came in a cheap camera that you bought, it may not be useful for charging or transferring data. Usually the cables that can transfer data also have higher charging rates. So this seems like a decent cable. I know that they use this cable for updating the firmware, so keep this in mind before you throw this out or get rid of it. It should be useful for cell phone charging and transferring data or updating firmware. You also get a wrist lanyard that attaches to the gimbal handle. That'll keep it from accidental drops and keep it secure when you're using it, especially if you're chasing down some action. You get a mini tripod, which is a decent tripod. I like the way it folds all the way out like that, and also the legs are not flimsy where they just kind of like flop out. This is a nice, it's got, right, for at least for now, it's got a nice tension behind it, so you could probably, if you needed to for some reason, sit this a little bit higher instead of spreading. If you had limited space, you could sit this a little bit higher so you can brace it like that instead of having to spread it out where you didn't have enough space to balance it. Let's put that to the side. You also get the device or camera mounting plate, which is very nice. Has, I believe, a laser etched markings on it to show you, I guess, the distances that you've used in the past for a quick setup. Again, very nice, high quality. Anodization on this. It's probably aluminum, at least it feels aluminum. It's got a little bit of weight to it. It's not cheap by any means. You get the 1/4 mounting screw that you need to mount your device to the camera plate. And then you get the star of the show, the Zhiyun Crane M2 gimbal. Very nice, very compact. Compared to the Smooth 4 gimbal, which is about maybe 5 or 6 inches longer, this is definitely a more compact design for carrying around and traveling with. So let's get the box out of the way. I'll sit that there. And like I said, for the purpose of this video, I am going to be using my Panasonic LX10 compact camera. You really want to get the camera, or actually you really want to use the camera in the way that you plan on shooting video with it before you do the balancing. When I did my first balancing, I did not have on this, I think this is a polarized lens, and then I went to put the polarized lens on after, and it threw up the balancing a little bit. Now, not much that would cause a lot of, actually, it shouldn't cause a lot of vibration in the motors, but just having the camera perfectly balanced will give you optimal use when you're using it out, and you won't get any potential motor burnouts or vibration from an improper balance. So, what I've done to balance this, and I think that's what they recommend, is you first want to attach the tripod mount. Get it nice and secure, and then you want to stand it up on the tripod mount so that you have something to hold it as you're doing the balancing. So before we get into the balancing, let's look at the different balance points on the gimbal, and you want to go through these one by one so you can familiarize yourself with that. Also, what I did, I guess the first time, was I missed a balancing point. I missed the pan axis balancing point, and I did not tighten this down, and it did not work the first time. It was giving me some kind of locker motor overload error when I tried to do the vortex effect, and I went online and I got a quick answer from Zhao saying, hey, you might have missed the pan axis balancing point. But if we take a look at the hardware itself, let's just get into that. This is a very nice, very high quality gimbal. It's not cheap by any means, or cheap feeling, or cheap material. Even though this gimbal is only at $269, which is a lot cheaper than something like a DJI Ronin. This is a high quality build, and I've never been disappointed by Zhao Yun's product development and implementation of how they bring a product to market. It's very clean. You've got a nice texturing on the front of the grip here. Nice medium grip, which should fit everyone's hands. It's not very heavy. You're probably going to get a little bit fatigued if you're walking around with this one arm out, but it's not very heavy, at least using it with my compact camera. Depending on the weight of your camera, that may change. Also, you have nice, bright, and marked buttons and switches. So on one side you have a menu button and a power rocker. On the front you have a shutter button or a record button and a menu button. You also have joysticks for controlling the axes in certain modes. On the other side you have the zoom forward and away, and then you have an additional quarter 20 and a USB charging port. And then on the back you have a trigger for getting into full follow mode, or realigning or recentering the camera. And then you have a little locking switch here, which which I probably, it wasn't locked down, or actually it was, but I didn't have this locked down. All of these surfaces, if you can see this surface here with that pin through it, and then this surface here, kind of match up. They line up, they interlace together, and that little pin right there, once you put this all together, slides into the groove on this axis here, and then you tighten down this screw that locks two of the axis, and then you lock down the third or rotation here with this, which is already locked, and everything is locked down and ready for travel. So now that we understand how to lock it down and unlock it, or actually let's just go backwards and show how to unlock it. First, we can unlock the rotation axis, and by unloosening this screw here, that allows us to release one of the horizon axes, and that'll allow everything to kind of fall out for you to do your initial balancing. So let's get into the initial balancing. So for the initial balancing, there are multiple. I just showed you all the different axes, and you have to go through each one to kind of get it set up. And I'll try to get the camera so that I can see each one, and probably because of the angle it may not translate well through film. And I'm also going to go through and I'm going to read this, because there's steps that you want to go through one by one to make sure that you are doing this correctly. If you were to balance one axis and then did like the third axis, you might not have a proper balance. And since I've only used this once, again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to like follow along with the instructions that I downloaded, just to make sure I'm doing it correct the first time. So give me a second. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to use, like I said, I'm cheating here. I'm going to look at the instructions as I do this. We're going to balance the gimbal for the first time. First instructions they instruct you to do is mount the camera, or whatever camera you're going to be using, to the mounting plate. Now this mounting plate has two slots on it. The inner slot is for smaller cameras, and the outer slot is for larger cameras like your mirrorless cameras. So because we're using a compact camera, or if you're using a mirrorless camera that is a compact camera form factor like a Fuji, you can use the inner slot, or the smaller slot, the shorter slot. You want to have the numbers or the markings facing forward. You want to grab your quarter 20 screw and start tightening it in. Do not over tighten. For now, we're going to have to do an adjustment. Now, once you have your quarter 22 mounted, or once you have your base plates mounted, you can now slide this mounting plate into the quick release slot on the gimbal. Now, this also has locking screws, so if this is locked down when you first purchase it, you have to release it so that you can release this little clamp here, and that will allow you to slide in the camera. So we're going to do that. And there's also a quick release button here in the back to prevent it from sliding all the way out, just in case you happen to tip or lose grip on the gimbal as it's being slid in. Once it makes it past this little silver button here, it will lock the gimbal into place. Well, it will have one locking, you'll hear it click. It's now locked into place, and it allows you to adjust even though it is locked into place. That keeps you from being able to slide it all the way out and dropping your camera. So with that said, what we're going to do now is we're going to slide this mounting plate all the way in as far as we can, and we're going to try to get the camera as close as possible to this motor here. Once that's done, now we can start the balancing. First, we need to find a horizontal balance. As you can see, this is off. It's not staying level. So since this is already loosened, we're going to try to find a horizontal balance. We're going to find a horizontal balance. Now, this gimbal comes with a little locking screw here that allows you to lock this down once you found your balance, which will allow you for a quick balance. So right now, like I said, it was off. I've already done this once, and since I've already got that set for quick balance, all I have to do is slide that all the way in, and I am balanced horizontally. Nothing else to it. Now, once we are balanced horizontally, we want to have this so that the camera itself, oh, I forgot one key step. The lens has to be, if you have a lens that protrudes, it has to be out so that you get a proper balance. Now we want to balance this orientation here to prevent the camera from tilting forward or tilting backwards, and we do that with the quarter 20 screw being loose and sliding the camera in so that you gain that horizontal balance, at least as close as possible. So looking at this, I am horizontal with the lens out, camera as close as possible to the motor, and I'm also trying to make sure that my camera is facing straight, because you can, I guess, cock the camera and have it pointing off in one direction or the other. So I'm going to try to make sure it's as straight as possible. I'm also going to make sure that now I have a nice vertical balance here. I have a nice vertical balance, and these screws can be kind of finicky. Don't ask me why. But once you feel like you got a perfect balance on this, somehow when you tighten up the screws, the balance is lost, and then you got to loosen up just a little bit and kind of force it back, maybe a millimeter, to get that perfect balance. I'm going to try to keep it the way it is. I'm going to hold the vertical axis, and I'm going to tighten that down slowly, and hopefully it's going to stay where it is. And hopefully my camera is going to stay on, because it does have a power save. And as you can see, when I let that go, for some reason the camera started to bounce back a little bit, and I'm not sure why that is when you tighten that down. So, but I'm going to just loosen up just a little bit. And it's probably because as you're tightening that screw down, it's creeping along the surface of the screw, is creeping along the surface of the mounting plate. I want to make sure that I got a nice balance. Again, I'm going to pull that forward just a millimeter, and that seems to be good enough. And now I'm going to try to hold this in place and tighten down that quarter 20 screw. And it doesn't have to be super tight. You don't have to torque it, because this camera's not going to move much once it's balanced. So now I have a horizontal balance and I have a vertical balance. So there is another point of balance, and that is to make sure that your camera is not hanging too low to prevent it from getting a proper rotation. Or I guess that's, I guess that's a rotation, up and down rotation. If this is hanging too low, it's going to force that camera, those motors, to try to lift this up. So you got to try to get the center of gravity up higher so that this axis goes through the center of the camera. And that is done with this adjustment here. There's a locking screw here. We're going to make sure that's loose. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slide this camera on this orientation, and then we're going to try to push that up until we get it to balance with the lens pointing straight up in the air. And as you can see now, I'm starting to lose balance a little bit here. So I'm going to try to get this balance where this is, I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to try to get this balance. It looks like I'm a little bit too high because it rotates backwards. I'm going to slide it down just a little bit, and it slides forward now. Sometimes the adjustments are very minor. So now I see that I got a proper horizontal balance. I'm going to tighten that down, and I'm going to grab a little bit of the clamp and the gimbal itself so that I don't lose the balance as I'm tightening down on that clamp. Again, you don't have to over torque it, just get it tight, and I'm still maintaining that balance point there. Even though I've lost my horizontal balance, I still have this balance in check and it's not rocking back or forth. Now I'm going to bring it back forward like this. And I'm going to try to get that horizontal balance back. I'm going to loosen this up. I think I got it right about there. It was off just a little bit. There you go. Get it one more time. There you go. Perfectly balanced there. I think I lost the balance here because I didn't have the lens set up correctly. So we're going to rebalance this point. I'm going to loosen that up. 1/4 tighten that back. Now that I've got the balance back there, tighten it back up. Everything's straight. I'm going to point it back up in the air. Everything is straight. Got a balance here. Got a balance here. Got a balance on this axis, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs not to tip left or right. And now you want to balance your pan, this pan roll, and that requires you to loosen this screw. Point the camera so that the back of the camera is perpendicular to the surface of your motor here. And we're looking for balance here. So what we're looking for is that this motor doesn't roll left or right. And since I didn't adjust that, it's pre-adjusted from when I had it in the box, which was all the way in. It seems like everything is fine there. So because that's set, I am now going to tighten down on that locking screw. Everything again looks like it's balanced. We got to balance horizontally here. We got to balance vertically on all axes. The camera does not move when you let it go. And now you can power up your gimbal and hopefully it maintains its balance. But if it's not properly balanced, what you're going to get is probably a lot of shaking if it's a different manufacturer's gimbal. Or in this case, what I got was an audible alert that said beep, beep, beep. Your motors are probably overheating and there's a balancing issue. But I think we're good here, so we're going to hit the power button and power it up. Sorry, I gotta hold that for a second. It is now powering up, and boom, your gimbal is now perfectly balanced. Just give it a quick test. Everything seems good. Everything's locked in. It is in PF or pan focus mode right now, so when I move hand left or right, it moves along with it. So that is how you balance a camera, or maybe even your cell phone, on a Crane M2 gimbal. So now that we've got the camera balanced and we've got it all set up, now let's go into how we can get the camera to connect to the phone and some of the settings or features. Let's start off with the settings and the modes. On the front of the gimbal, you have a mode button, which will allow you to cycle through different modes. Right now, if I can get that to focus, it is in PF mode, which I explained earlier. That means it is in pan follow mode. So when I move my wrist left or right, the camera should move left or right with it. And I want, for this purpose of this video, because the camera's a little bit low, I want to remove the tripod because it allows me to get the camera a little bit lower. So pan focus allows the camera to move left and right when I pan the handle left or right with smooth movement. If you hit that button one time, it goes into lock mode. So in lock mode, it's going to keep the camera in the orientation that it originally started, which, as you can see, is kind of pointing that direction. And no matter what I do, that camera is going to stay in that direction. If I click the button one more time, it puts the camera in what they call POV mode, which is point of view mode, which means if you were trying to imitate your point of view and you turn your head to the right like a dog, the camera's going to tilt to the right like a dog, and left is going to do the same thing. It's not going to keep the axis locked. It's going to move in the direction that you move, almost like a what they call full follow. But in this in POV mode, it also allows the camera to tilt left and right. If you hit the button twice from this point, actually if you hit the button one more time, it puts it back into pan follow mode. If you hit the button twice, it puts it into go mode. Now go mode is going to be the mode where the motors are very fast and very responsive for you to catch action on the go. Someone trying to do skateboard tricks. It's not going to slowly go to the point of the rotation. It's going to move as fast or faster than it would do in normal mode. And then finally, the last mode is if you double tap again from go mode, it's going to put the camera in what they call vortex mode. And vortex mode is the mode where you're able to do the rotation effect. So now the camera is actually pointed straight up in the air, but you can also do it in this orientation. In fact, I'll put it down in this orientation. And if you push the joystick to the left or right, the camera will rotate in the vortex mode feature. Oh, I just had a slide there, which means something was not locked down. That's locked. That's locked. I swear. Oh, I think I lost this one. So right now I'm going to power this down because I swear I heard a slide as it was doing that. And we're going to find out which screw we did not lock down. Yep, there you go. I lost balance there. So let's go back. It's probably this one. Or is it this one? Lost something. Which one's loose? It's not that one. It was this one. It was a lock on the actual locking plate. I forgot to lock that down once we locked down the locking plate. So we're going to put that back in place, and hopefully everything is still balanced. Everything is balanced, and we're back. Again, second time using this camera. You really got to get into checking all those locks before you start using it. But as you could see, it didn't damage anything. I didn't get any vibration or any alarms. It just slid the camera out, and that's a testament to how strong these motors are. It did not, even though it was extremely out of balance when I did that vortex mode, it did not slow down or stop the rotation of the gimbal itself. Probably not the best thing for the motors, but we caught it, and I'm pretty sure there's no damage there. I'm going to power this back up. First, let's just check to make sure everything's tightened down again. That's good. That's good. Oh, that's good, and that's good. Everything's tightened down, and let's get that fire back up. Oh, lost my camera there. Let's power the camera back up. Okay, and now let's fire up the gimbal. Perfect timing. Okay, and there we go. We're back in action here. So we went through the actual modes of the camera and how they work. Now let's go through the menu button. On the side there's a menu button here. When you press the menu button for the first time, it's going to take you into the different menus that you can select. And I don't know if you can see this because it's probably giving you a little bit of a bad focus, or it looks like a refresh. But if you can read that, the first one says motors, the second one says Wi-Fi history. Now if you go into motors, the smooth, sorry, I keep saying smooth, the Crane M2 has 3 different motor torque settings. For action cameras or phones, you're probably going to go into the light torque setting, which is probably going to give you more battery life and just enough power to manage your action camera or your cell phone. If you're using a compact camera, you should put it into the medium torque modes, so that'll give you enough power to do those vortex modes and not over torque the motors or understress or overstress the motors. And if you're using a larger camera, like a larger compact camera, a larger mirrorless camera, sorry, with maybe a heavier kit lens, you want to put that in high torque mode. If you're in the wrong mode, what it says is that you'll get a vibration. That's typical for any gimbal that's out of balance or doesn't have enough power. It will vibrate just to tell you that there's something wrong. I have not had that issue. I have put this in because I've been testing it with this compact camera. I put it into medium mode and high torque mode because I think this is a heavier compact camera compared to some of the other compact cameras that I did the research on, and everything worked fine. Everything's locked in and the motors work really good. I feel like this thing is really responsive when I give it some inputs. Second selection down is the Wi-Fi history. You are able to connect up to 5 different devices to the smooth, I keep saying smooth, to the Crane M2 gimbal. So if you had 5 different things connected right now, the only thing I have connected is my LX10. You could go through, when you're connecting to Wi-Fi, what you would do is you would scroll down through the settings, and I'm going to go into the motors, for instance, just for an example. Scroll down to go through the settings, and then if you press right, you're going to be given the option, as you can probably see here, it is in high torque mode. Now if I want to put it into medium torque mode, I would just scroll up to select that and then push to the right, and it would initialize the setting. Now when it initializes the setting, everything is sort of like locked out right now. It's in standby mode because it just did an update to the settings. All I have to do is hold down the mode button and it will bring it back into power. In fact, let's try that again. Let's hold down the mode button and see if it puts it into standby mode. That's normal with most gimbals. If you want to put it into standby mode because you're not using a lot of battery, hold down the mode button and it'll make everything go into standby mode, or it seems powerless. So let's try hold it down and see if that happens. It did. It powers down if you hold down the mode button. Like I said, which is typical for most gimbals. So we're gonna hold down the mode button again, which is almost like powering it down, but it's still on. It's just there's no power going to the motors. And we'll go back and look at the other settings. Like I said, if you scroll down, you'll see that you can go down to Wi-Fi settings, and I'm going to go straight across. And as you can see, it says AP info, and you've got CS. I guess those are the different settings. If I wanted to go back, I can't remember how to go back. If I hit the mode button, okay. Wi-Fi history, joystick settings, and about. So you can go in and change all of this stuff from the gimbal joystick settings. If I went in, that would allow you to change the joystick settings. Sometimes when if you like fly remote control aircrafts, you sometimes want the joystick to move the opposite direction. So instead of when I push up the camera going up, maybe my mind wants the camera to go down when I push up on it. So you can change the joystick settings. You can go into the history, and then again you can go into different settings, the Wi-Fi settings and motors, all from the controls or the joystick on the front of the gimbal. So that is how you are. Those are the different settings. I'm gonna put this tripod back on real quick, and this is going to be a pretty long video. Sorry, it's already up to 25 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm going to put that down so that we have balance. And the last feature that we have is that the Crane M2 is able to connect to select compact cameras and mirrorless cameras. It's also able to connect to the GoPro camera through the ZY Play app. So let me open the ZY Play app really quickly. ZY Play has come a long way since I bought my first Zhaoyun gimbal, which was using like Zhaoyun's gimbal app. I don't know, and then they came up with ZY Play, which is buggy. It was a little bit buggy on iOS. No, sorry, it was a little bit buggy on Android, but not as buggy on iOS. I pretty much use my Android phone all the time and not my iPhone, so it's gotten a lot better. I can tell you all the zoom features and everything seems to work. So once you go into, and I'm hoping you can see this, once you go into ZY Play, you're going to get probably an advertisement splash screen. This camera's about to go into sleep mode again, so I'm going to power that up one more time, just to make sure that lens is out and not stressing those motors. And once you get into ZY Play, what you want to do is what you're going to have to do is select the gimbal that you have. I do have the Smooth 4, but we're going to scroll across until we find the Crane M2. And once we find the Crane M2, all we have to do is hit connect. It's going to be looking for the Wi-Fi signal coming from the gimbal. And if it finds it, as you can see in those settings, or maybe hopefully you can see it, it says it says Crane M2 3986. Which means we're already connected to the gimbal because I've already done this one time. If this were the first time, when you hit connect, you would get a list of devices that it found that are Wi-Fi connections from Crane or one of your gimbals. If I had two gimbals on, you probably see two different ones, and then you would just tap on the gimbal that you're trying to connect to. And since I've already done this for the first time already, we're just going to hit enter now. And then once you hit enter now, you're going to have a selection of what you're trying to connect to. Are you trying to connect to the phone, or you're trying to connect to the camera? So we're going to use a camera connection, and I'm going to click OK. Now, I've already done this, but if you had to do it for the first time, what you're going to find is you're going to have a Bluetooth signal here in the top of the screen. What you're going to have to do is you're going to go into, in this situation on my LX10, if I were to tap my main screen, I do have a little, I guess, function button here, and at the top I have something that looks like a Bluetooth icon. So what I do, well, not a Bluetooth icon, but a connection icon. And when I when I click that, it tells me that it's now putting my camera into visibility mode. And this is actually Wi-Fi. Again, sorry for the misunderstanding. And on this, I'm going to make sure I have the Wi-Fi setting on here, on my phone, not Bluetooth. And what it is now telling me is that it has found a Wi-Fi connection coming from Panasonic. So what you would do is select that one, and when you select it, if you have a Wi-Fi password or a password on your Panasonic, it's going to request that you put it in. But after it does it, if you just click select, you'll get the list of different cameras that you can use here. So you got Sony, Panasonic, Canon, GoPro, and Fuji. I do not have DJI. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to use unless there's a firmware update, I'm not going to be able to connect to the DJI Osmo Action. Situation as we have a Panasonic, and we're going to click OK. And now we are connected, or we should be connected, to the gimbal and the camera. So just to test that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rocker button here, or this control here. And we're going to see if the gimbal rotates left and right. I'm going to pull it to the left. And as you can see, the gimbal is rolling left and right. Now, if you want the gimbal to move left or right, you're going to use the arrows. When I use these arrows, as you can see, you can move the rocker here, and the gimbal is going to follow the direction that you can do, so you can control your gimbal. Sorry there, I reached my recording limit. I was up to 22 minutes, so that means I got to end this really quickly. So as I was saying, you can use this control to rotate the gimbal left or right remotely. You also have the zoom feature, so if you hit from, and maybe you could see that in the camera as I am using the to and away. So if I go in, you can see that the camera and the lens are actually moving. Okay, and then here, I don't even know what this one is. Let's see what that does when I press that. I don't get anything when I press that, and when I do this, it's lock mode, I guess. Okay, when you hit this button here, sorry, I hit this button here, and that gives me all the different modes that I can use for this camera. Apparently, I can use select vortex mode without actually using the menu button on the gimbal itself. I can do it from my phone. So if I wanted to get a separate cell phone, or even maybe use this connection with a Q20 connection to the side, now I can use my phone as a controller instead of the joystick. Okay, so let's close that out. And are there any other settings on here that I haven't tried? I have a camera power button, and then the last thing is if we try the shutter button here to see if it actually connects to the phone, to the camera, and gets it to record. As you heard, my camera just started recording. So everything is working. It's telling me the battery life on my phone and my gimbal, I believe that is. So I got a battery life on the phone. I don't know if that's the gimbal percentage, which I think it may be because it's at 90% and I haven't used this gimbal in a couple of days. I also have a different thing that looks like a phone battery percentage, so I guess my phone is at 60%. We have a little nut here, or it looks like a little nut. So we're going to click that and we'll see what that actually does. This allows me to actually go in and select some of the settings for the gimbal itself. I can shoot the scene mode, so this is something that I would normally do on the application with my cell phone. If you're doing follow mode or walking or motion, it kind of braces the gimbal for the type of action you're going to be shooting. If you're doing walking, it's going to be slower paced. If you're doing motion or fast motion, it's probably going to let those motors run a little bit faster, similar to putting it into go mode. We're going to go back. We have the calibration settings here. We have the strength, which allows me to select the motor strength as we did in the settings from the gimbal. We have motor calibration, which I haven't done. And with this one, if you have, I've done this on the phone version. And motor calibration, what happens is right now, if you probably can't see this, but it looks like this motor is a little bit canted to the left. So what you can do on this one is you find the motor that's off. In this situation, it's this motor here in the back. And what you would do is you would click the adjustments until it was straight. So as you can see, now it's canting to the right. If I do it the other direction, or actually we're going to go back to 0, and if I go the other direction, see what happens. So nope, that didn't work when it was 0. So I wanted to get it to go to the other direction. And it's trying. Okay, there you go. So now 5 on one side and 0 on the other has leveled out the camera. And that's how you would do a motor calibration. And then device information is going to tell you the different, I guess, firmware versions or serial numbers of your devices. So that's pretty much it. That is the complete unboxing and use and setup of the Crane, the beautiful Crane M2 gimbal. I'm thinking this is about a 30-minute video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully I was able to help you get this set up, because I know the first time I did it, I had some balancing issues that I was worried about. I forgot to tighten down one of these screws, and it, just like I did on the first on this video, and it didn't work for me. But now, if you can't find the information online, you have some direction on how to get it set up. So hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. I really appreciate you sticking with me. I'll have more videos coming of me shooting video from this camera with the Crane M2, because I'm really anxious to see some 1-inch sensor video. Even though my cell phone does a great job with the Smooth 4, I want to see some 1-inch sensor video, smooth, I guess, stabilized video with the Crane M2 and my compact camera. And I'll be getting back to you with my opinions on different products that are out in the market. Tech is a very high cost hobby, and there's just some things that have come out which I have either decided to get or not get. If I've decided to get them, you'll see the review on them, and if I haven't, I'll give you my reasons why I am not going to purchase it. So, hey, talk to you later.